Hi, this is Nick from The Groundwire, and today I want to talk about how to set up a Germanium Fuzz Face to get the maximum amount of dynamics and expressiveness out of it. So a fuzz face, specifically a Germanium fuzz face, is absolutely one of my favorite pedals. And one of the reasons for that is that it's so, it feels so connected to your guitar and your amp. It's like an instrument in and of itself, at least the good ones are. And one of the great things about them is that they're totally controllable with your pick attack, the volume control on your guitar, and you can get anything from a real sparkling clean tone that's even really a better clean tone than your amp, all the way up to the all-out fuzz assault. And they're real touchy as far as setting them to maximize that. The basic parameters, you can look in a couple of seconds online and find, hey, you set up a fuzz face, you turn everything up pretty much all the way and you're good to go. And while that is true, because they're germanium transistors, because of the nature of how simple the circuit is, little tiny tweaks make a big difference. And so I want to show a trick that I use when I set one up prior to playing. So I've got 3 different Germanium fuzz face style pedals here. By the way, this is not a shootout or a comparison of these 3, but they're all a little different. So I want to show how each one, setting it for what I consider the maximum flexibility, is a little different on each. I will do another video comparing Germanium fuzz face style pedals at some point. But anyways, this is the Jam Pedals fuzz phrase. This is the BYOC ESV Fuzz. I built this from the kit and covered it in stickers as opposed to painting it. And then this is the Expresso Effects Mojo Fuzz. The Jam one has CV7003 transistors. The BYOC has AC127s. And the Expresso Effects has CV7007s. So they all have a little bit different gain range. But first of all, I think one of the first keys to getting a great fuzz face sound is how you set your amp. So I'm playing through a Black Face Deluxe Reverb. It's 1965. Fuzz faces are notoriously difficult to get to work with a bright blackface style amp. They're more typically used into a Marshall. I love them into the front end of this amp, but part of the key to getting that sound is making sure you have a speaker setup that's not super bright. If you're using the vibrato channel, a lot of people clip the bright cap so it's not so painfully bright, because fuzzes can get really harsh if you don't do that. So I'd recommend doing that. And also you want to set your amp up for, if not overdriven, edge of breakup. And a lot of people will run a fuzz face into some sort of overdrive or boost pedal. And I'll do another video on using fuzz faces with boosts at some point. But the main key is that your amp is not, like, the volume is not on 2, or the fuzz will sound really thin and really harsh. So mine is set up, this amp is on just a little over 5, and it's at just sort of the edge of breakup sound. And you want to set it up just enough so that it's starting to compress, so that when you kick on the fuzz, it doesn't go like this, and all of a sudden you have all of this extra. You want it to compress the high end and make things thick and woolly and not bright and harsh sounding. And to show you that, actually, I'm going to turn the volume down on the Fuzz Face so it's not hitting the amp as hard. And you'll hear when it's not pushing the amp, and you hear actually kind of the sound of the fuzz pedal, it doesn't sound great. So check out what I mean here. It sounds okay, but the magic of a Fuzz Face really happens the way that it interacts with your amp when it's really pushing the amp. So listen to how it changes as I crank up the volume. So the volume control will also affect the tone and how it hits the amp, and it will make it brighter and also simultaneously thicker sounding. So the first thing I do when I set up a Fuzz Face is I want to you turn the volume up to a point, and after, at the very last like 10% of the volume control, it starts to bring in, it gets brighter, and then it starts to also bring in a lot more bass, and it gets kind of mushy. So I roll it all the way up, and then I roll it back until I hear the mud go away. So I'll try and demonstrate that. Hopefully this will come through. So right around there, as I roll it back just a little bit, that's where I kind of hear the muddiness, that extra last little bit of low end clean up while still pushing the amp. So that's the first thing I do, is I turn the volume basically all the way up, and then I bring it back just a little bit until I hear that extra mud go away. And it's still giving the amp a nice boost. And again, the amp's got to be set either a little bit dirty or at least on the edge of breakup to get that effect. The next thing I do is I want to get, part of the reason the Fuzz Face is great is because the full range of clean to fuzz is available with your volume knob. Obviously, they work a lot better with single coil pickups, okay? So that being said, you can get great sounds with a humbucker guitar, but you won't get the volume cleanup and sort of what makes a Fuzz Face special, in my opinion. So Strats, I think, are probably the best with how their pickups work and the output, like vintage style Strat, but you can get good results with a Tele or a Jazzmaster or other single coil type guitars. So you get the volume set, and then the next thing is I want to find on the fuzz control exactly the spot where I get the maximum amount of fuzz I can while still cleaning up. And it's somewhere in the last like 5% of the volume knob on most Germanium fuzzes. So the way that I do this is I roll my volume back all the way down to the lowest usable point. That may be different on every guitar. It depends on your volume pots. On my guitar, it's about 3.5. Below that, there's just nothing left, and then the sound cuts out. So I'm going to turn the fuzz knob all the way up, and I'm going to set my volume on 3. And you'll hear it's cleaned up, but it's not that beautiful sparkly clean that you can really get, and kind of what I had at the very beginning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that chord, and then I'm just going to roll back the gain slightly. And in that last little couple percent, you'll hear it all of a sudden clean up, and then that's the magic spot where the gain needs to be set for this transistor's, and for this fuzz pedal to clean up. So I'll show you. So right there, you can almost hear it, just like it's like you hit a notch and it comes down. and you get that wonderful clean tone, and it doesn't really affect the maximum amount of gain when you have the fuzz knob cranked. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so that for this pedal, it's whatever it is, 98% or something on the fuzz knob. And for each Germanium Fuzz pedal, it might be a little different. So let's try that with the BYOC and see if we can get a similar result. So fuzz cranked, volume at 3 on my guitar. For you, it could be 5 on your guitar. It depends on the pots. So you'll hear this one has more gain. It's a lot dirtier, even with the volume back. And boom, we hit that spot. And then we still have that full range of, clean to overdrive. And let's try that on this Expresso effects Germanium Fuzz. This one seems to have lower gain transistors, and so I find that actually with the fuzz cranked, or like 99.9% cranked, it cleans up great. So let's hear it. So that's with the fuzz cranked, and there's really not much. To me, that's a great cleanup right there. So you just find that exact little spot, and to me, that's the secret, because if you have the fuzz cranked, you'll still get some cleanup, but you're missing out on that special little chimey, glassy, spanky clean tone. That's better than your amp's clean tone. I mean, listen to this. Here's my clean. And then here's my volume on 3 through the fuzz. It's just got so much more harmonics. I mean, there's a hair of grit there, but it sounds awesome. So there it is. Simple but effective little tool. Every time I go to turn on the Fuzz Face, I do that real quick. Crank the volume, roll it back to where the woof goes away, crank the fuzz, roll it back to where it's clean with my volume down, and then you're good to go, and you can get all the different shades that you want.